Friends, namaste to Indic Vichar. This is Ajay Sudhame, and today I have a special guest, Shri Ashish Dhar. Ashish, I don't know, he doesn't like being called that, but to me, he's a scholar. And his other introduction is he runs a website by the name of pragyata.com and excellent YouTube channel by the name of Upward. Right, Ashish ji?
Ji.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
Writing, Ashish ji, welcome to Indic Vichar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Okay. And he's writing a book on Hinduism, I guess. Is that correct? Is that a right description?
Yes, it's a book on RSS's favorite subject called caste.
Acha, RSS's favorite subject called caste. Okay. So you must be the only person today who's writing a book on caste, and you are not apologetic about it.
No, there are many books on caste. In fact, I mean, most of the scholarship is by the enemies of Hinduism. But even from the Hindu side, there have been very good books on caste already. Like
wonderful.
In the recent past, there has been Professor R. Vaidyanathan's book on caste.
Correct.
Right? Yes.
Okay.
But our book is going to be slightly different in its approach to the subject. Maybe we'll talk about it some other day.
When it comes, we'll have an interview on that. Okay. So Ashish ji, I must congratulate you for your excellent videos on Upward, and the last video was also excellent, very well received, and you must keep on producing videos. Like they are eye openers for all of us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and the purpose of having you today is the latest controversy created by the statement made by Shri Mohanji Bhagwat, Sarsanga Chalak ji. And I mean, of course, they are not well received. People have become very jittery after the statements have come out. And hence I thought that no better place to do an interview than from Nagpur. I mean, Nagpur must talk about this, right? So Ashish ji, I mean, what do you make of this statement by Shri Mohanji that the DNA of all the Indians are same?
Right. So whatever I say, I mean, I've never. I think I should start with a disclaimer that I've never been, part of the RSS. So my criticism or my endorsement is that of an outsider, and I must confess that I may be ignorant of a lot of things about the RSS, and so whatever I say must be taken with a pinch of salt. But about the question itself, and I will not hold back in expressing my opinion as always. So this remark about Indians having the same DNA, it strangely reminds me of a statement. Actually, Dr. Konrad Elst, he uses a very peculiar term and a very beautiful expression actually to describe the Congress policy of Nehruvian secularism, for example, right? And its various consequences and its different forms and shapes that it comes and haunts us. And he uses the term called studied superficiality. So there's a, मतलब हिंदी में बोले तो अलंकार में उसमें एक विरोधाभास है. कि दो तो there is studied and there is superficiality, right?
Yeah.
Which is what makes the term very beautiful.
Correct.
So you are deliberately being superficial is what the implication of that statement is.
Correct.
So that's as far as Congress is concerned. But if I were to borrow that phrase and sort of use it for RSS, I think I will remove the prefix of studied. I would just say that it is superficial. Most of the things that come from the leaders of RSS, most of the statements that they make are exercises in superficiality, which is what we see in this remark over Indians having the same DNA. No one has bothered to explain what exactly Pujya Sarsang Chalak ji means by that, because he just went to a gathering and said it. So I don't know if it is about, if it is really about the DNA, if it is about the genetics of Indians. And if that is what he really means, then what are the implications of that on, let's say, the Aryan invasion, Aryan migration debate? did these people really come to India, or as Mr. Shrikant Talageri, his theory about people migrating from India to the other parts of the world. So, there are grave consequences to such statements if he has indeed made it in that context, but we really don't know. Maybe he meant that we have the same cultural DNA, right? In the sense that we belong to the same culture and we've shared the same space for centuries, and that's why there is so much in common. But that is also, in contradiction with historical realities. We have existed in the same physical space, but there have been deep fault lines between the communities. And the most glaring fact and the most glaring consequence of that has been the partition of the country, right, in 1947. So to disregard all that and make such claims, I cannot really fathom, how someone can be so overconfident and so careless with one's words to make a statement like that, and then just forget about it. Then let there be an outrage on Twitter. Let there be discussions like we are having, but no one really cares to explain what exactly is meant by such things. So I believe that it's a superficial statement as always, and it does not bode well for the future of the country, because these guys are at the helm. And if they continue to engage in such careless ways, then it really will do a lot of damage to the psyche of the people, and especially of their followers.
Correct. So I mean, to reflect on the statement again. So does he wanted to say that we were all Hindus one time? I mean, that is RSS pet theory, that even a Muslim or a Christian here was a Hindu, say 500 years back or 200 years back. So he wanted to say that.
I don't really know what he really, like I said, I don't know what he meant exactly. And
Okay.
That's why but I mean, if that is the intent, to say that, the other religions in India did not exist in the past, there were only Hindus, or at least there were only people belonging to Indic faiths, including Buddhism and Jainism. If that is the case, then that is an obvious thing that everyone knows. It's a very obvious and a banal fact. There is nothing that needs to be stated again. So that everyone knows, but to mean it in a way that that we need to have a harmonious sort of living, and that all that doesn't work. I mean, this is like some कोई चाचा जी आ गए और घर पे आ गए और वो बोल रहे हैं बेटा पढ़ाई करो, मतलब वैसे टाइप का pep talk हो जाता है. There is nothing serious about it. So I don't really know why they say such things.
Ashish ji, another person whom I really admire along with you is Sri Sanjay Dikshit, and he had a scathing remark on this. He said कि बकरी का और कसाई का भी DNA 90% एक होता है, तो वो कसाई मतलब I thought कि इससे मतलब चुभने वाला रिमार्क मुझे दूसरा नहीं मिला, तो I thought I should mention that. मतलब
Absolutely.
और मुझे लगा कि वो मतलब जो the anger and the जो प्रक्षोभ जिसको बोलेंगे, that was beautifully reflected by Shri Sanjay Dikshit's comment. That's what I thought.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so I mean, going ahead. So again, and he didn't stop at that. Sri Mohanji didn't stop at that. He said that Hindus who lynch cow thieves are not Hindus.
Right.
So I mean, of course, I am testimony to the fact, and I'm going to put pictures in this video. I mean, you should know that, of cow theft, which happens. So I am associated with a sanstha here, and they are doing a yeoman's job there. But I mean, so I don't know what he meant by that. Is he ignorant about the ground fact known as cow theft in our country, or he wants to everybody to forget that?
Well, I mean, when he said that, I mean, I think that, to me personally, that part of his speech was the most painful, because these are realities that have grave consequences on the lives of ordinary Hindus in India. we are we may be living in cities, and we are not really, we don't have cows. We get our milk from Mother Dairy or wherever, right? And we have no connection with the cows anymore, unfortunately. But a cow means so much, religiously, economically, in various contexts, to a Hindu. And when these cows get smuggled, uh, especially across the border to Bangladesh, to feed the beef and the leather industry, and this is, mind you, this is a illegal smuggling. This is not part of the this is not part of any trade agreement with with that country. This is all illegal, which is
Correct.
why Bangladesh is able to provide the world with cheap leather, right? So that's one thing there. So there is a huge mafia which is involved, and this is common knowledge. A little bit of study of this phenomenon will tell you that. And to completely disregard that and to say something like this, first of all, I don't know who gave Mr. Mohan Bhagwat the authority to issue certificates about whether you are a Hindu or not. There is no sense to it. RSS is a socio-cultural organization. It does a lot of good work in that space, and let them stick to it. I mean, how can Mr. Bhagwat say anything about who is a Hindu and who's not? Who gave him that authority? But that aside, even disregarding the realities of cow theft and cow smuggling and the beef mafia and everything that goes along with it, and then talking about lynching and giving validation to the enemy's narrative that India is Lynchistan. I don't know
Yeah.
what would be a worse strategic blunder for someone in power. And I mean, although there will be RSS men who will say that no, they are not in power, it's the BJP in power. But for an outsider like me, it does not matter. I know that there are deep connections between the BJP and RSS. The RSS is like a guiding force for BJP. And so there is no point in denying those realities. And when someone in power says something like this, which does damage to the nation, to the communities that stand with you and that look up to you, uh, they vote for you, and then you say something like this, I think there could be no better term to describe it than out and out betrayal. So this is clear betrayal, and I don't have any other word to describe this.
I understand. So again, I mean, another question on this about the timing of these remarks. Why now? What happened?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, like I said, I mean, how I explain all this madness to myself is what I mentioned in the introductory remarks about their superficiality. So, if we look at it through that lens, then I don't see any real strategic motive behind it.
Okay.
It's just someone who's going and having a good time, giving a lecture somewhere, and saying things which please the audience there,
Okay.
without
So,
realizing the consequences of that elsewhere. So I don't think that these have any. I mean, usually people have a tendency, whether they are for RSS or against RSS, they have a tendency, and especially in the journalistic circle, because that's their bread and butter. To speculate on these things is their bread and butter. So they will, spin all kinds of conspiracy theories. नहीं वो इसलिए अभी बोला क्योंकि वहां पे इलेक्शन हो रहा है, यूपी में इलेक्शन हो रहा है, उसकी इक्वेशन उसके साथ नहीं है, वो योगी जी को प्रमोट कर रहे हैं, वो मोदी जी को वो दिखा रहे हैं, या वो मोदी जी को प्रमोट कर रहे हैं, उसको दिखा रहे हैं. All kinds of explanations. I don't buy that. I just believe that most of these things are said in a spirit of absolute superficiality, and therefore there is no real thought behind it. But nevertheless, there are great consequences.
so as per you, they are just off the cuff remark to please the crowd. I mean, that's it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. To please the immediate crowd, the physical
हाँ,
crowd,
जो सामने बैठे हैं वो.
and also to please this ecosystem of the left dominated media, the international media, which is to say that sending a signal that we are liberal people, we are not the fascists that we paint us to be.
We are turning liberal.
No, they've always been liberal.
Okay.
They've always been liberal. I don't think that there is any change as such in the last, let's say, 4 decades at least, in my knowledge. Yes, RSS, when it was formed, it had very different purposes, and then there were ups and downs in their career, in their story. And so they've changed a lot, and they should actually. All organizations should evolve and respond to the needs of the time. So I don't really believe that there is any great logic behind why these remarks now and why not at a point later, or why now only. Because like I said, if you view at this whole episode from the lens of RSS's superficiality, then it sort of makes sense that you could say anything anywhere randomly just to please your audience, um, your own, I mean, immediate physical audience, as well as the larger audience of the global media that they so desperately want to please. So I think, other than these two very frivolous objectives, I don't think these remarks form any great strategy. Although a lot of people do have this tendency to, to find some great,
Motive.
like, both sides, whether you're for RSS or anti RSS,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
say that because there were these elections, and then this election will have this
Hmm.
statement will have this consequence. ये वाला vote bank
Hmm.
consolidate हो जाएगा. That is
Hmm.
reading a little too much into
Okay.
this whole episode. Any of that happens. They just say what they have to say. They're on a trip of their own.
Okay. So yeah, so he said it in front of Muslim Rashtriya Manch.
Right, right.
Maybe it is to please them.
Correct. Absolutely. I mean, there is just whatever the rhetoric that they built that organization on, it is just to reinforce that rhetoric and say that, this is Muslim Rashtriya Manch has certain, has a certain place in the RSS ecosystem. And just to give them that reassurance that, you are important and your role is being appreciated. I think that's the whole idea. Nothing more than that.
Okay, so Ashish ji, I used to think, again, being from Nagpur, we may have a more saffron view of the RSS. तो it is हमारे लिए मतलब आंखों के तारे हैं, तो वो it may be because of that. But do you think that over a period of time has RSS abandoned its original goal of uniting Hindus and strengthening and protecting Hindus?
Certainly. I think over this period of since its inception, the RSS at the time of its inception was very different from the RSS at the time of independence, and later on at the time of emergency, and finally at the time of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. And so, like any other organization, it evolved and it responded to the needs of the time, and it adapted to the pressures of politics of a specific period, which is all very, very good. That's the only way in which an organization can actually grow and survive. But I believe that, and there is enough ample literature actually, which shows damning evidence that the RSS is sort of fossilized back in from the time 80s. So it is no longer that it is no longer responding to the change in circumstances, the change in times, and it's basically ever since it tasted its first what do you call the first drop of power that they tasted. After that, I think they just stopped
There's
changing, because
no looking back.
That was like मोक्ष मिल गया, मतलब हो गया जिसके लिए थे उसके लिए मिल गया. So now that they are in power, they have no more incentive to change. And so for the last, let's say, 40 years, I think it's been the same story. And the whole secular image that people get shocked by. I mean, these statements, I don't see anything to get shocked by. This is something which is not new. I mean, they've been talking about it over and over again. And if there is a fault, the fault lies with their admirers, because they refuse to see the reality.
Yeah.
They have been about it, and they have said it without any qualms and honestly. I don't know what prevents. I do understand. I mean, I can always understand the psychological forces which make people unsee something unpleasant. Perhaps that is at work. But the RSS has made no bones about its secular credentials, at least for the last 40 years.
So I mean, actually, last question. So as a Hindu, of course, I believe that you are disappointed. And is the time ripe to have a brand new far right organization?
I think, I mean, one, I am personally not disappointed because I never
Okay.
look at RSS in the way as perhaps you do. So there is a difference in our perception itself.
Yeah.
To me, this is the most expected. This is the most
Okay.
expected sort of statement. Nothing surprising about it. And now that it has come, I mean, it's just one of those things. Perhaps it gives us an opportunity to discuss and understand the organization and its ethos. But I'm certainly not disappointed. I know that this is what they've been saying and doing for the last 40 years. About the need for what you call the far right organization, I don't think, first of all, RSS is a far right organization or ever was a far right organization. And secondly, I don't know what far right would mean in our context.
Okay.
I don't think that we need a far right organization. What does that mean? We need a Hindu organization.
Okay.
I mean, let's not say left and right here, because there are so many things that need to have a leftist sort of orientation to address some issues. In a more in other issues, there could be a rightist. So, I mean, just categorizing left and right here, I think would be wrong. Also, we don't need one organization. We don't need a huge organization. I mean, like like Sanatana Dharma itself, which is, I mean, so extremely decentralized. We need hundreds and thousands of organizations, each with a very specific mandate, doing their own work, defining their own scope, and getting their heads down to work, and doing what they're supposed to do and what they've defined for themselves. So we need many organizations, and perhaps it would be a good idea to not pin all hopes. I mean, not any hopes actually on this very
one organization,
this Titanic. Not at all. I think we need a lot of grassroots organizations which have their own space, which have their own mandate, and they continue working for Hinduism as well as India.
Yeah, I agree with Ashishji. So, I mean, this topic is actually so deep, and it needs so much research and so much charcha that I think we need to keep on revisiting it again and again, probably, right? And so, I mean, in terms of Kashmir, in terms of Kashmir and Jammu, so I interviewed Shri Ankur Sharma a while back, right? He runs a political party by the name of Ekjut Jammu. So probably I think that
Ankurji is a good friend of mine. In fact, we've also done a video with him at Upward.
Great. So I probably think that in terms of Kashmir, I would like to talk to you specifically sometime in the future. That I mean, as a Hindu who's in exile, what do you feel? I mean, we actually should have spoken about it a while back, but anyway. So it's good to connect to you again, and I'm sure our viewers will love to hear about you. And this new controversy will surely give us a new. It should give us a new way to look at it. I mean, we should rejig ourselves. That's what I think.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it in terms of dispassionately as a data point, let's say, and try to objectively understand it, then it gives us much better return than to justify our emotional, our emotional dependence or our emotional indulgence in a certain organization. I think it's always better to be more dispassionate and think through stuff rather than justify.
Thank you, Ashishji, so much for giving us time.
But thank you for. It was a great pleasure as usual speaking with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
On your channel.
Friends, thank you for watching us. And if you like us, please subscribe and like and share our videos. Thank you so much. जय हिंद.